Hey, I'm so glad you set up time. No, please don't ever feel silly. I never want you to feel that way. When I got your email, I've had a bad boss, and so I always thought that would make me be a good boss, but now I'm afraid I'm becoming that bad boss. That spoke to me, because I do think that's common, but tell me more. Okay. Sure. First of all, you didn't deserve to have a bad boss. Nobody deserves a bad manager, and it should not be a rite of passage to learn how to work or how to be different from them or be a good boss, flat out. But when you do have a bad boss, then you can do some things. You can either forget about them entirely, or you can think about what that looked like and how it felt when you were on the other side, how it made you work and feel outside of work, what it made you do. Okay, right. Well, sure. So you quit and came here. So we are very glad to have you here. But I never want anyone to move to a different role to escape something else. But it happens. But also recognizing when you catch yourself doing things like losing patience with team members and remembering how that felt, it's important because you can't change what you had in the past. But again, you get to choose how you do react from that. And so really thinking, I think making an inventory for yourself, things like that, like losing patience. So you said being short with people when you've lost patience and you had been on the receiving end of that and it didn't feel fair. Yes, it's very common as a manager to wonder, why did someone do that? But sometimes you can kind of think through it. Right, exactly. Exactly. If you're giving someone a new project, yes, like rolling their eyes and crossing their arms, it can. But sometimes it can mean thinking about why they might be doing that. What's their plate like now? Okay. If they have a full plate and they're just getting something else, well, I'm sure employees should always feel like if you're giving them something else that they can say, okay, how does this fit in with things and respond that way? But honestly, employees don't really get a lot of that training on what to do. And so a lot of their reactions are going to be natural. And so if you are an employee and you feel like you have this workload, they likely think that you know everything they're doing. People often think their manager knows all, but you're not a wizard. And so their response may be frustration because they're just thinking like, why would I raise anything else? Nothing's going to change. When in reality, yeah, but yes, they should feel welcome. But even more so, as you're talking to your team members, thinking about what you don't know. And so, okay, yeah, ways I might have that is approaching that conversation to say, hey, there's a new project. I want to talk about it, but I also want to talk realistically about what you have going on, your interest in this, the skills in this, and figure it out if this is something that makes sense for you to work on, how we figure everything else out. Like, can you add this, or do we need to reprioritize? If you start it like that, like, I don't know, that took 10 seconds, let's say, it can help to reframe that conversation. No, but if employees don't have that and they haven't heard that, then they may assume the worst. They may assume, well, you know what I have going on, so you think I could just add this to everything else. And so people often do assume the worst. So as a manager, taking the initiative in that can help that conversation. But yeah, well, I think that's an example. But going back to this aspect of the behaviors that you saw that you'd call like a bad boss, like that can mean a lot of different things. But thinking specifically about what that meant to you. And again, it shouldn't take going through something to learn how to do better. But sometimes you don't know better until you do better or hear better, whatever. But so thinking about what that looked like and where you see that coming out. And we can talk about specific situations like that. But really, I think in the moment, that example that you brought up, I do think can be one. If you're having a team member and you're frustrated because you're giving them a project and they're not like, thank you so much, can't wait to work on it, thinking about why that might be and how you can make some changes and talk about how you intro that, and also giving them coaching to say, if I ever give you a project and you're like, I have so much going on, how do I fit this in? I may not know that. So I should be bringing that up proactively, but in case I ever don't, please do. And so we can talk about it. Yes, when we have lean teams, sometimes it's hard and we have to add things to our plate. And let me tell you, that's no fun. And it's no fun as a manager to have that conversation. And it's also not realistic or sustainable. But in this instance, I think I would do that. I would go back. Yes, no. I'd go back and just have that conversation and say, I just want to talk about it because I know you were frustrated and I, got frustrated, but that doesn't make sense. And this is how I wish I'd started the conversation. No, I promise. Again, think back. If obviously you left your bad boss, but if they had taken the opportunity to recognize where they would have done things differently, then maybe it would have given you a second thought about working there. But generally, you are not a bad boss because you lost your cool in the moment. But choosing good leadership moving forward can be thinking about going back to that person and having that discussion over. Yeah. Okay, well, let me know how it goes.